you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I usually go ahead and do some overall, oh, the year starts off and it's a new year and stuff with a new anime, but I can't even do that because the sheer amount of anime that we have coming out this year in terms of quality and actual big bangers is insane. I mean, this anime season is so completely filled with everything to the brim. I don't even know where to start. I had to hold back on talking about some anime just because I didn't want to be here forever and give long-winded explanations on why I want to watch all of these things. So I had to cut it down to just like my short list. This list that you're seeing right now, this is my short list. I don't even know how that's possible, but this is somehow my short list. Because there are still things in this winter 2026 season of anime where I just either didn't have much to talk about or there was just other things that I wasn't like fully invested in, which, don't get me wrong, those are still going to be things that I watch throughout the season, but my God, just the sheer amount of anime I already have to talk about on a normal basis, things that I have so much to actually say about, is already full. And I even had to cut out, like I said, some of those stuff. So like I said, I already made a long intro, but we already gotta get on with this stuff. So welcome to 2026. Hope you all have a good new year. Let's get on with it, because we're probably gonna be here for actually a good while. You know this, I know this, the entire anime community, no matter what corner of the anime community you're actually a part of, knows that Frieren is going to be one of the biggest talked about animes at all, let alone in the winter 2026 season. And hopefully it can actually get its praises now that it's not competing with Solo Leveling. The Solo Leveling isn't coming out this year at all. I'm gonna be that guy. It got snubbed still. We're all still reeling from that fact, just so you know. The anime that dethroned Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood as the most highest rated anime on MAL, the anime that took everybody by storm, the anime that made everyone once again fall in love with elf women, and the anime that for some reason has a weird fan base of just weird people. You know which ones I'm talking about. I am happily willing to put Frieren on my watch list because I am so excited to get season 2 and to explore more of the world that Frieren has. Or I would if I actually finished season 1. Okay, listen, look at me, okay? Look at me. I want to watch this anime. I really do. It is a lot. I have not had an anime make me feel emotional in almost every single episode that it actually came out with. And then I got told that episode 5 through 7 is going to break me. It did. I'm trying to get through it as fast as I can. It might not be an anime I talk on a weekly basis, unfortunately, but I will be talking about Frieren in some capacity and watching season 2. And listen, I was already hurt a lot last year when it came to anime and personal stuff, but I'm just telling you right now that Frieren is an anime that I will be finishing. I just need a break from crying. I really need a break from crying. But even with the little that I've watched, it should already tell you guys that I already fell in love with Frieren despite not even finishing season 2, because the quality is just that strong. And I am so excited for season 2 because that means I get to binge more of Frieren. Will I probably become more of an emotional babbling mess? Yes, most likely. But I'm telling you right now, as long as I don't have the amount of emotional trauma that I had when it came to anime like I did in 2025, we should be good and I should be able to finish Frieren. Maybe. I'm really hoping on it. Going into Hell's Paradise Season 2 for me is going to be an interesting aspect. Mainly because Hell's Paradise Season 2 is going to be very similar to Solo Leveling Season 2 for me. I know I've mentioned Solo Leveling multiple times, okay? It's just, right now, it fits with the comparisons, okay? But what do I mean by that? Well, basically, Solo Leveling Season 1 was a season that I didn't really felt super attached to, nor did I feel like was actually part of the quality. But what do I mean exactly when I say Solo Leveling Season 2 is going to be similar to me when it comes to Hell Paradise Season 2? Well, Solo Leveling Season 1 was a season that I wasn't really super attached to. I can acknowledge the quality in which it brought to the table, but there was something about it that didn't necessarily completely resonate with me. That was the same thing with Hell's Paradise Season 1. I could 100% acknowledge the quality that it built in terms of the characters, the world building, the animation, and the overall actual story. However, when it came to everything meshing into one, I don't 100% know why it didn't connect with me. Sure, I can acknowledge the fact that Season 1 just didn't really have anything to grasp me other than just the already strings of stories that it had. But what I'm hoping from Hell's Paradise Season 2, similar to what Solo Leveling Season 2 did for me, was to bring it all together in a cohesive story that made me actually appreciate the story building that happened in Season 1. Now, am I asking Hell's Paradise Season 2 to go just as hard on Season 2 like it did with Solo Leveling? No. What I'm asking is to just make me care about the story. What I am asking from Hell's Paradise Season 2 is to just make me care about your product. I want to care about Hell's Paradise Season 2. I want to love Hell's Paradise Season 2 because everything about it is stuff that I like when it comes to anime. But there's something about Season 1 that just left me unsatisfied with the actual story. I need Hell's Paradise Season 2 to really make me care about everything that's going along and the main character that we have. And I do care about his plight, but not enough to get as invested as I would with other anime. Now, I'm not putting as much pressure on Hell's Paradise Season 2 as I did on Solo Leveling Season 2 because, and this is going to be kind of a hot take, I think Hell's Paradise Season 1 is better than Solo Leveling Season 1, but Solo Leveling Season 2 just completely blew me out of the water. Hell's Paradise doesn't need to go as hard, but it at least needs to show me it's a competent story that can be consistent with its quality. So like I said, is it a make it or break it season? No, but if I leave Season 2 the same way I left Season 1, that's gonna not fare well with the way I feel about Hell's Paradise in general. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are finally going to see part of the Culling games animated in real life, and I am excited. We are going to see my boy Hikari animated. We are going to see my favorite character Higuruma animated. We are going to see some of the best fight and character interactions probably in all of Jujutsu Kaisen. Culling games is arguably one of the best arcs in Jujutsu Kaisen, and we are about to see peak being fucking thrown at us week after week, banger after banger, and I am so excited about it. Now, unfortunately, this is going to be a part 1, and remembering what goes on throughout the entirety of the Culling games, I kind of hope they just kind of move fast on it, as there is a lot of downtime and prep time that happens in the first part before we actually get into the real big intense fight with everything. I'm hoping we at least get some of the really good big shit before part 1 is actually over. And I'm hoping if we get a part 2, it's later in the year, potentially in fall of 2026, though given the production of the show, I don't even know if that's the case. We might get it potentially next year in winter, but knowing then we also might get it later in 2027 or 2028 if given that fact. But like I said though, that doesn't mean the beginning doesn't have some peak going on. And I am so excited to finally get some of the Culling games animated. I'm excited. I can't wait for it. I've already read the dang thing twice, and I'm gonna watch the story and consume the story for a third time because the Culling game story is actually that just good. I don't even care. I'm leaving that in. I don't even care if I made that mistake. I'm telling you, I'm so excited that I'm messing up. It is that dang good. And yes, prepare for Lobotomy Kaisen to come back in full force, stronger than ever, because I promise you this arc is going to make everything 10 times annoying. That's not even a joke. Please prepare yourself. Now, as much as I love my Jujutsu Kaisen, as much as I love my Culling games, as much as I love my characters Hikari, Higuruma, and others in the Jujutsu Kaisen world, my true most anticipated anime of this season has to be Oshi No Ko Season 3. Oshi No Ko has given us back-to-back, peak after peak, 10 out of 10 after 10 out of 10 good seasons, and I am expecting the same quality from Season 3, especially the way it left us with all the mysteries and the little bit of revelation that we have, throwing all of that into the story now, going into season 3, has completely changed the dynamic of everything we should be expecting from Oshi No Ko. Aqua feel like he could finally move on and be at peace, but now Ruby has her own vendettas and her own things that she has to process for herself. Akane has to talk with Aqua, but doesn't know if she should even reveal the little things that she realized about the things that Aqua's going through. And Kana is trying to deal with her emotions, liking Aqua and dealing with all that stuff. Then there's things with the dad, there's things with the final scene that we had of season 2, with the whole murder and all that. All of these elements adding on together, along with the spiritual weird ghost sister, but not ghost sister, that is now existing and talking to Ruby, not necessarily clash together in season 3, but we should be getting a lot more information on top of everything that we've already been seen, shown, and told. I do like how Oshi No Ko explores some different type of entertainment industry in the whole grasp of the media environment in Japan every season. As we've seen idols, we've seen reality shows, we've seen people doing the 2.5D players and how music videos work with idols. And now it seems like we're going to explore the world of game shows potentially and how that works, or some form of reality TV, which I am very, very excited for. Which is also interesting because if you don't know, Japanese game shows are both the most abstract and weird, but also terrifying thing like in existence. And just to give y'all a good example of what I'm talking about, if you haven't seen like actual Japanese game shows, that just, you know, Ninja Warrior? Imagine if Ninja Warrior was skateboarding. I'm not fucking with you. Imagine if Ninja Warrior was skateboarding. That's the weird, crazy shit that Japan will come up with as reality TV shows. And Ninja Warrior was already crazy enough before it got over to America and basically became super athletic wipeout, if I'm being completely honest. But that's beside the point. I'm excited if we're really going to explore the reality game show stuff, because that might actually lean into some really big fuckery for Oshi No Ko. So I am excited in both an actual deep delved exploration way and a twisted, oh my god, we might actually see some really, really bad stuff in the industry type of way. But yes, don't be surprised if Oshi No Ko is everywhere on this page, because I promise you, it's going to be a lot. Ecchi is something that I try to not talk about too much on this channel, which is funny to say because 2 of my most popular video and anime series actually has to do with ecchi. So the algorithm is telling me something, but I tend to ignore it because I just don't want my channel to be all ecchi. But if there's one ecchi that did catch my eye in all of 2025, that ecchi is Chain Soldier. And it's weird. You can usually tell how some anime can be popular depending on how much it's talked about. Now again, algorithms are algorithms. They're going to cater towards you, and you know, they're going to show you exactly what you like because they just know what you like. But Chain Soldier has always been this anime that I'll always see every once in a while, where it'll pop up in my feed. I'll see some type of picture or edit or someone mentioning it, but it's never really super talked about. It's not dominating my feed, but I always see it here and there every once in a while. So with season 2 coming around, I genuinely wondered whether Chain Soldier was going to be something that I actually watched. Sure, it's an ecchi, but it didn't seem like a super extreme ecchi. It's the ecchi in the sense that they're going to have sexual scenes, yes, but it's not going to be something as bad as World to End, where everything was completely censored and it damn near had a black screen, similar like Nukadashi, the anime that came out this year, which, holy fucking shit, that was a lot. And at least with some of the clips that I have watched, Chain Soldier doesn't seem like too bad of an anime, honestly. It seems kind of generic when it comes to its power and stuff like that, but nothing I outwardly saw as super egregious. Now, I could be completely missing the mark and I could be walking into an ecchi that is completely over just the top when it comes to the shit that it does, but at least from the stuff that I've seen, and I haven't delved too far into the actual series itself or anything surrounding it for that matter, but it still doesn't seem too offensive to me. But I guess this is a good point to ask. If I were to talk about more ecchi on this channel, I guess, would you as a fan base be interested in something like that? I'm not 100% sure if people would. I mean, again, analytics say otherwise, but as a fan base, is that something that you actually want? And I guess I could. It might be a second channel thing. I might be honest. I might not super delve into it in terms of the reviews, but if that's something that you want, let me know, I guess, and we'll see how people react to that. I'm not gonna lie if I didn't say I was scared. I want to be excited. It is the final season for Fire Force. We're finally going to get all the cool, big, intense things that Fire Force and the manga readers have all talked about. With that being said, I can't 100% sit here and tell you that I am not sitting here without at least some worries. Now, Fire Force has always still been around, but in terms of the actual season, it's been gone for a few years up until last year's release. Similar to One Punch Man, and don't worry, I will make a video on that. Fire Force is nowhere near on the level of that atrocity, but Fire Force at the same time, watching the first part of season 3, left me concerned with a lot of thoughts. Sure, I will admit, the last episode of season 3 part 1 was actually pretty intense and well animated and well produced. With that being said though, knowing that we're going to only get 13 episodes when there are still quite a lot of chapters to be adapted into it also doesn't give me very much confidence. For a series that started so strong, again, it's not as bad as One Punch Man, but to see it slowly just kind of trickle down as bad as it is kind of upsetting to see. Now, I am nowhere near the camp of people that think that the fan service was the thing that actually ruined it, which, to be fair, it did ruin some moments, but the fan service is not as aggressive as other ones. This is the show that I think gets too much hate on its fan service because there are just other shows that have way more aggressive fan service that are more popular, if not just as popular as Fire Force. And I think depending on how season 3 part 2 comes out, I think the real question that we have to ask ourselves is not if the fan service is the thing that ruined Fire Force, because I'm not someone who subscribes to that. I think the real question we have to ask ourselves is Fire Force an actual good adaptation? Because as the seasons have gone on, and given the fact that this show had time to actually fix a lot of the issues that it has, the more I go back to look at some of the Fire Force things, and the more I consume the most recent Fire Force stuff, the more I feel that this adaptation has been kind of mishandled. Kind of similar to how I feel the adaptation for Soul Eater was mishandled. Because I found out what the manga for Soul Eater was, and how that ends. For reference, I don't like the ending for Soul Eater. I feel like it was a bit of an ass pull and something that was completely just out of the blue mishandled bad writing. What happens in the manga was a far better take on the entire show than what the anime did. I fear that for Fire Force, and it scares me. And you can't even use something like Fire Force or Soul Eater is too intense, which the fact that Takashi Fujimoto can actually get a good adaptation of something like Chainsaw Man, which, by the way, is also currently highly rated more on MAL with the movie than Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is intense, and everyone loves that movie, and that movie kind of actually captures properly of what Chainsaw Man is. The fact that Soul Eater nor Fire Force I feel like is getting a good representation is baffling. It's baffling, and it makes me wonder why. Is it too abstract? Is it too out there? Is there something about both of these properties that are just completely hard to adapt? And look, this is a watch list, so I'm not going to get super into it. Just wrapping up for the Fire Force part, I am worried. I am worried that we are going to get Soul Eatered into a hole in which that we can't really come back from. It already feels like that, as season 3 part 1 felt like a bit of a rush and felt like it was doing story beats properly that made sense just without the context that it needed in order for those to feel more impactful as it should. And it feels like we're also missing some elements that should be within season 3 that is cut, that doesn't make sense. Again, I need to make a whole video on it if I'm being honest, because it's already taking longer than it should. Just know that I'm worried. I hope that they can pull it off, but I don't have the confidence they can. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I am surprised that we have a second season of My Hero Vigilantes so quickly, given the fact that we already got season 1 pretty much less than a year ago, and the final season for My Hero Academia main story is already come out and done. My Hero Academia is wrapped, but that animation was also so peak. I think we really need to have a conversation of Studio Bones potentially being a top 3 studio, given the fact that they can do this and Vigilantes and have pretty high quality for both of them, which is wildly impressive. But yes, we are getting a second season of My Hero Vigilantes, which also is coming out at a pretty good time as well, seeing for the fact that My Hero Academia main is actually finished, and it's kind of riding off the high of everyone really liking the adaptation, or the final adaptation for the series, which is different from the manga reception, which is very interesting, and I feel like a wider discussion that we should have as a community when it comes to manga versus anime fans. Again, that's a whole different video. But hopefully that energy for My Hero Academia's main story could now be shifted over to Vigilantes, which I think will be a good market replacement for the show, as My Hero Academia Vigilantes is a side story, but a side story that goes kind of adjacent with My Hero Academia, not completely, as it feels like it's more back into the past as the main story was, but still, there's still a lot of good things to love about it. Knuckle Duster is such a great character. Pop Step is wonderful. The main character, which I forget his actual name, but the Crawler is also super fun. And the new villain that they're introducing for season 2 seems really sick. And he feels like a Flash character, which that bodes its own problems depending on how they implement that. But I will go up and say that the My Hero Academia fan base is eating really well now. It just got one of the best finales for an anime that has been received in a very long time, and now it's getting a second season of a side story that's actually gotten a lot of traction behind it, which is really cool. Which, to be fair, is warranted. The story for Vigilantes is actually really good, and for last fans like me who didn't necessarily favor the story as it kept going on, Vigilantes just gives a new taste and a wonderful exploration of the world that the main story just doesn't really do. Answering a lot of our questions when it comes to actual vigilantes, how the law works outside of the heroes, the consequences and the actions of that, how lower enemies are actually treated, how, you know, the whole system works when it comes to dealing with vigilantes and dealing with villains, and what lower rung actual heroes will actually do, and the actual interactions when it comes to people who aren't in the MHA system being recruited by heroes or actually interacting with heroes who they may or may not be allowed to vigilante for. So, needless to say that I am 100% happy to get My Hero... No, don't use that. Needless to say, I am very, very, very happy to be getting My Hero Academia Vigilantes back so soon and ready for 2026. Since helping out with the collab that I did with that Kodotan girl, exploring the whole shoujo community, I have been well more aware of the actual demographic genres that exist out there. And Clear in the Moonlight Dusk is going to be a result of that, because this seems quite lovely and interesting. I could see something like Clear in Moonlight Dusk exploring stuff of self-identity and how people struggle with that, as the MC seems like a girl who struggles with being called the prince of the school, despite the fact that, you know, she wants to be identified as a woman and be acknowledged as the proper woman, but is accepting the role of a prince since it kind of just makes her school life easier. But all of that changing as a boy comes and actually acknowledges as a woman, and it kind of stirs up her feelings even more. I'd like the story to be more of a heavier exploration of it, but it seems like it'll be going in the lighter direction, which is fine. Everything doesn't have to be heavy all the time, but I would have personally appreciated, I like my more deeper, meaningful explorations of self-identity, but something as light and goofy as this can still have its place and still be as effective. Just, you know, not often, but it still can be effective. I also find it funny that this is the first actual new anime that I am talking about, as the last 45 minutes of this has been nothing but sequels. I have a lot to say about the sequels. This isn't the only ones, but we will be adding new anime on this list. I promise you, I swear to God. But 2026 is going to be the acknowledgement that I have been in a shonen bubble for a very long time. Hence why I want to make an effort to actually explore other demographics out there, like the shoujos and the seinen and the joseis out there. So don't be surprised if you don't see as much shonen on my list in the next upcoming seasons, and you see more of a variety of those other 3 demographics popping up here. Probably not this time around, because there's way too much important shonen being talked about, but I will make an effort to do so. And continuing on with demographics, we have a new anime called Journal with Witch, which is an anime that follows our MC distancing himself from his sister, since his sister didn't treat him, very well. But as she passes away, she leaves behind a daughter who's not really taken in by any other relatives, so the brother decides to step up and take the daughter. But in doing so, ends up inviting both of them to explore the complicated feelings that they have with each other, with the family, with how they are perceived in the world, and just the overall trauma that they go through. This one feels like another self-identity exploration type story, but it also feels like it's going to go over two people who kind of feel alone in the world actually bonding together, realizing that even though they may seem different and they have their problems with each other and other people, that they can find solace in the fact that they both feel the same. Also expecting the obligatory, hey, family is important and we should stick together because honestly, we're all that we got and we should probably try to make that work for our own sake. This anime also caught my eye because it's a very unique style that I really like. It reminds me a lot of the Sunny Boy animation, which is still one of this day one of my personal favorite animation styles that I have seen, just because of how abstract it was. Journal with Witch doesn't get as abstract as that, thank fucking God, honestly, for being honest, but it does give me a similar feel. This one I am expecting to get a bit deeper, and honestly one I feel like I hope actually gets a lot of attention, because this seems like a nice, quaint story, and I really hope that it gets a little bit of the praise that it deserves. Well, I say deserves, but I haven't even watched it. But I have a feeling in my gut that this show is going to be a sleeper hit for me, and a show that will go undermined given the fact that it's probably in one of the more brutal seasons that it could be in, given all the sequels that we've talked about, but an anime that hopefully other anime fans and other anime creators will at least give some acknowledgement to. Medalist was an anime that I kind of overlooked for the year. Initially, when I talked about it when it first released in 2025, it was an anime that I didn't think much about. To be fair, my heart was still blind to Yuri on Ice, so getting invested in another figure skating anime was something I wasn't really looking towards because I didn't want to get hurt again. I'm sorry. But I did have other friends, mutuals, and content creators talk about this anime, and they really fell in love with it. It made me kind of wonder what I was missing out when it came to Medalist. So hearing that there was a season 2, I didn't binge it enough to properly watch it weekly, but I am putting it on this list because I want to give Medalist that shot to actually see what it's all about. It will be an anime that I talk about later on in the year, obviously because I'll be watching season at some point, but I want to give Medalist a chance. I think I didn't give it enough of a fair shake when I originally talked about it, just saying that it was kind of a whatever anime, but seeing that it actually got a lot of traction and a lot of attention, why not? Why not actually give this anime an actual try and see what it's all about? It does really seem wholesome in a lot of aspects and seem like it's a story about trying to reach your goals and persevere, and probably what would be in a somewhat way. So I am excited to actually go ahead and be able to see what everyone's been really talking about. So again, not going to be in the weekly rotation, but don't be surprised if I talk about Meta somewhere down by. Now, when I originally saw the Holy Grail of Eris, I originally thought it was going to be an anime similar to the Winter 2025 anime, May I Ask for One More Thing, where I thought it was going to be a princess getting screwed over by her partner or her husband, being left, and she was going to go on some form of a rampage and just basically fuck up everybody in existence. That's kind of not what that anime is. The Holy Grail of Eris seems to be more of an actual dramatic piece rather than just a straight up beat 'em up type story. And to be fair, the supernatural being that she is attached to, or going to be attached to within the story, Scarlet, does seem like the type that will beat the fuck out of everybody. Which I also found funny because even though it's not similar to May I Ask for One More Thing, both characters who seemingly do not want to give a fuck, want to get revenge on the kingdom that screwed them over, and is probably going to be the one to actually cause the most pain within the story, are both named Scarlet. I'm okay with this trend, and it'd be funny if every girl who fits that specific niche going forward in anime is just named Scarlet. Now, even though it's not going to be the same as May I Ask for One More Thing, I am still very interested because it does seem like a different take on that exact story. Seeming that is somebody who doesn't want to cause pain, but does feel vexed by everything that the kingdom and her husband did to her. And it seems like that supernatural being Scarlet is going to be the one to try to convince her to do so upon of the MC and everything that Scarlet went through in her past life. This story seems like it's either going to be the slow corruption and turning of darkness, with Eris being a girl who actually cares about wanting to just live a good life and doesn't want to cause any trouble, but slowly just stops giving a fuck, or actually clashing with Scarlet being someone who's like, no, we probably shouldn't be this aggressive, we probably shouldn't be this bad, or we eventually find out that Scarlet, actually deserved what she got all those years ago, because even though she's told Eris, hey, I got screwed over, there's probably more to the actual case than there was. So I'm very interested to see where this story goes. Either of these plots of anything I said is honestly quite interesting, so I'm very excited about how they approach the story. I am somebody that loves death games, whether it be the type where you gamble your servitude away like Kamagiri, or if you just are straight up in a death game like Tomodachi game, or if you go ahead and you're in the afterlife and you're fighting for the reincarnation just like Death Parade. Death games seem to be an area in anime that produces really good products, but we don't see many of. Which is why Shibou Yuugi playing death games to put food on the table is an anime I immediately gravitated to, not because it's a story about a bunch of girls who get trapped within a death game and have to figure out a way to survive and figure out why they're there in the first place, because our main character not only is someone who is in the death game with everybody else, but she is somebody that has gone through it before and consistently goes through death games just to survive and put food on the table. And personally for me, an anime like this, like Shibou Yuugi, is an anime that instantly makes me think this could be a sleeper hit for the season. Because the idea of somebody playing death games just to put food on the table and to pay bills and all that stuff, and they somehow do it so consistently that they survive every single time, is phenomenal. It makes you come up with so many questions. Why are they there in the first place? What caused them to be in the very first game that they were in? Why do they constantly come back, and why are people allowing them? Would people who run these death games know who this girl is, or is it one of those things where the people behind are betting on these games and they're just hoping that they could bet against them, hoping to get some type of big ass payout? It raises so many questions, but an anime like this with this type of premise that leads you into it all depends on the reasoning and execution. This anime does seem like it could be something good. However, this really depends on if the execution and the explanation is good. If it's a good explanation that makes sense, it's dramatic, and really makes you sympathetic to the actual character, well then we have gold that we're working with. But if it's boring or nonsensical or just not enough or just doesn't make sense in the first place, this anime really falls flat on his face. Now, if I am being honest, there aren't too many places where I can see this where I wouldn't be interested in it. Even if they say some stuff of, oh, this girl's just crazy and she wants to do it, well then that kind of explores that psychological aspect, right? But that also implies on how they execute that exploration as well. What I'm basically saying is, yes, this anime could potentially fuck up, but you would have to try so hard to actually fuck up a premise like this, because the premise is already kind of set in stone and seems like it could be something good. I can't even think of a way for this anime to actually make this a bad premise of a show. Am I potentially setting myself up for failure if it actually does turn out to be a not well-crafted anime with a bad exploration and a bad execution? Yes. Yes, I am. But that's kind of the point of everything and why I do this. I put myself on the plate and put out my first opinion, so when I watch it, I can either get absurded with good quality anime like I did with Jujutsu Kaisen, or I can be utterly fucking disappointed like I did with Suicide Isekai. It all is just a guessing game, but a guessing game with my feelings. I think Shibou Yuugi should be a hit, should be a sleeper hit, given the fact that we're in such a heavy sequel season of actual good quality, but should be somewhat of a hit nonetheless. So apparently, I was just completely off about what I thought about when it comes to Dead Account. This is an anime that I also thought was going to lean more into the death game aspect, where our main character was an agnostic streamer who was causing trouble across the entire platform, but doing it for the sake of his sister. Now, what I originally thought with this show was this was going to be a show where someone was actually going to take it upon himself to put him in a death game or give her some task of, hey, you're an agnostic streamer, so you need to pay for your consequences. That doesn't seem to be the case for this anime at all, Val. As a matter of fact, let me give you a perfect example of what I feel like this anime did before the first episode even came out. You know how a lot of isekai slop will come out talking about how main character goes and has a normal life but is suddenly struck by either death or amnesia or a teleportation, wormhole, door, something sort of thing where they end up in a world that is mystical and magical, but they didn't really have to make it an isekai, and isekai was just there to just make it an isekai, and then the aspect of them actually being from a different world is completely forgotten by episode 3, and everyone asks, why didn't you just make this a fantasy anime in the first place? That's what I kind of feel like Dead Account is. Dead Account feels like a show where they have this whole streamer aspect that they lean so heavily on, but it doesn't seem like it'll actually pay any aspects into it, which I can't imagine why they would do that. At least when it comes to the isekai premise, I understand it is just getting from point A to point B. You need at least the main character to at least be teleported there, which makes sense. That's the whole idea of being an isekai. You go from another world in order to go into another one, and ta-da, isekai. But Dead Account kind of makes no sense, as the whole thing with it is he is an obnoxious streamer that's paying for his sister's medical bills, but from the trailer I saw, it seems like his sister just turns into a monster for no somewhat apparent reason, and now all of a sudden he has to fight spirits and ghosts and all that of a sort. How the fuck did we get from being an obnoxious streamer paying your sister's bills to now fighting spirits and ghosts out of nowhere? It almost seems as the streamer stuff absolutely makes no sense. Only to also find out that the show isn't somewhat of a dramatic paying of his consequences. It just seems like another shonen. It seems like shonen slop, if I'm being completely honest. And I don't know how to feel. This show originally was something that I thought was going to explore the idea of streamer culture, how people IRL will do anything they can to go ahead and make a bunch of money, not also knowing that maybe there is a reason behind it, but also not acknowledging the consequences that they do for said money. It doesn't seem like we're going to be touching on that at all. Spirits come out of nowhere for some fucking reason, and apparently he's now just training at a certain place in order to fight these spirits. This, I don't know how to take that. I don't know, maybe I'm completely missing the mark on something. Maybe I'm completely just missing the ball and I'm shooting the biggest air ball that I'm shooting in my entire life. But Dead Account seems like it just took a completely different direction in which I thought it was going to. And to be fair, yes, I did think one thing, but the way that it was always explained seemed like we were gonna make more of a psychological consequence show, not a shonen action show. And now I want to put it on the weekly list, not because I think that it's an anime that is actually going to be interesting to watch, but an anime that I need to figure out how they get from point A to point B, because I'm baffled. I don't think I've been confused like this in a while, but if I could say one thing about the anime, at least Dead Account made it somewhat interesting enough for me to actually want to watch it. Just because it's bad interest doesn't mean it's not interesting. Now, on the other hand of Dead Account, Kaguya-chan Isn't Scary is an anime that I have had my eye on for a very long time, because when I originally saw the trailer, the premise for it was very interesting, as the whole ghost aspect and everything like that is actually a part of the show, and explored something quite interesting with this little girl being annoyed because she was apparently just a natural medium. And watching the trailer and looking at everything, This is exciting, man. I don't think it'll do an actual deep exploration of seeing how this girl is treated by everyone around her, as she is someone who can see, interact, and pretty much brings ghosts around her. But I think it'll be a fun little cute show with an actually good story. I'm not necessarily looking for Kaguya Isn't Scary to be some profound story. It just seems like a fun little show that is going to do a lot of really good animation stuff and just give us an interesting premise. Also, it seems like it'll actually balance horror and comedy pretty well, which I find very hard to do in certain aspects without leaning completely into a comedy that has some horror elements, or a horror element that has just a little bit of comedy to spruce everything up. The balance of horror and comedy of this seems pretty well matched, so I wonder if they can keep that consistent, or if that's something that's actually executed well in the first place. But this is something interesting on my list, and it is something that I am very excited to watch. In terms of new anime, this is very high up there, and I can't wait to watch the first episode to really get a feel of what this anime brings to the table. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this anime does seem kind of random to put on here, given the fact that the daily life of a part-time torturer is an anime that potentially this is the first time you as a watcher have ever heard of this anime. It is a low-rung anime that, honestly, when looking through the entire list, just catches my eye out of random. I always have some of these when they pop up out of nowhere and they just are somewhat interesting to watch for the sake of watching them for the most part. But the thing with this one, and the thing that crossed my mind when I saw the trailer, read the premise, I'm surprised that this isn't getting a little bit more attention than I assumed it would have. And I feel like that has to do with the infantilization of crazy people in anime. And I feel like this anime caters to that specific type of person. I mean, just look at people like Kurumi Tokosaki from Date A Live, like Yagami from Death Note, Yuno Gasai from Future Diary. All of these characters are crazy, insane characters that people in the anime community just fucking love. And while sure, it doesn't have the popularity as many other anime would, and it will probably be overshadowed by the massive amounts of sequels and actual anticipated adaptations, something like The Daily Life of a Part-Time Torturer is a show that I would at least see gravitate towards those type of people who are looking for the next crazy type of person. I think that's why I put this on the watch list, because I want to see if it gets attention from that inner part of the anime community, to see if we actually see some people who actually do like some of these crazy boys who are torturers, who seem to just live normal lives in a sense. A part of me also kind of hopes, and I say that very, very lightly because I don't expect this anime to actually delve that deep into such things, but seeing as this is just their daily lives, even though they implement the fact that they are torturing people part-time, doesn't really show the fact that that's pretty fucking psychotic for you to just go do that, only to just go to the groceries and buy a gallon of milk. Like that's pretty psychotic for you to do, and pretty detached from the emotions of a human. But I think it's obvious, given how this anime portrays itself, that it's going to be a lot more lighthearted and playful with the idea, rather than just saying, "Hey, that's pretty psychotic. That's not okay. That's worrying. You know, that's pretty concerning for you as a person that you could do that." It's one of those weird, low-rung things of the season that I latch on that I don't know if I'll ever follow through, but if I do, it'll most likely be a video on my channel that will not get any attention whatsoever. Yes, I'm still upset about my With You in the Rain video not doing well. Probably one of the biggest surprises to me was seeing that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Steel Ball Run is actually getting an adaptation, and that shit looks actually cool. I can't actually wait that we're getting one so soon, and I'm very excited for it. With that being said, this segment is nothing more than talking to Netflix. I doubt they'll ever see this, but this is something that I need to talk with them directly. Netflix, for the love of God and all that is Miley, please treat Steel Ball Run with actual respect. I know that in the last year we have seen a lot of shows, and both in the anime sphere and just your normal shows that you have that are popular, go from an actual weekly release. That's good. I think that's a good practice. Please, for all that is good in the fucking world, put Steel Ball Run on that weekly release schedule. I can't have it be treated like Stone Ocean. Stone Ocean being an anticipated aspect of the JoJo's Bizarre Story, and it getting treated absolutely shittily. I thought it was something that it could avert, but it's hard to do when there's so much anime that's come out, and when you drop an anime like that, it gets lost within the shuffle when other anime go week to week to week to week to week, while Stone Ocean was just kind of left as a binge series that you could binge and then move away from. Steel Ball Run needs to be a normal weekly adapted song. And I know you can do this because you did it with Danadon, you did it with Sakamoto Days, you did it with the summer that Hikaru died, you did it with a lot of the releases of 2025. Put Steel Ball Run on a weekly release schedule. I swear to God, if you don't, you will kill Steel Ball Run. Please put Steel Ball Run on a weekly release schedule. I am begging you, for me, for the JoJo's fan base, for people who actually want to see Steel Ball Run properly animated, animate that shit weekly. Release it weekly. Do not drop it as a part 1, part 2. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna do something. Also, for the sake of me and other people as well, don't region lock it like you did with stuff like 7 Deadly Sins and Fragrant Flower. I like to talk about this stuff early on in the season and not have it dangle in between winter and spring, as spring also has a shit ton of things that I'm gonna be watching. Help me out, Netflix, please. And the final anime that we are going to be talking about in our very, very long Winter 2026 watch list is Cosmic Princess Kaguya, which I am surprised nobody has talked about, because this shit looks fire. Now, of course, this is an anime that I would definitely pay attention to, given the fact that I am a sucker for anything having to do with music when it comes to anime. Your Lie in April, Taka Opi Destiny, Carolyn Tuesday, Vivi Fluent iSong. All these animes have to do some regard when it comes to music, and I am a sucker for that, given my musical background when it comes to the band and doing my own music and stuff like that. It resonates with me a lot, so seeing Cosmic Princess Kaguya be somewhat of a story about music, and yeah, it seems like somewhat of an isekai, but it seems like a fun isekai at the very least. Plus, I will say the animation for this looks quite stunning. Obviously, it's Netflix, so they probably put a good amount of money to actually get this produced. Either that or they just bought the license to do it, whatever. But this still looks like a very high quality anime. Again, I'm surprised I haven't heard anybody talk about this whatsoever. It's kind of insane that this flew under such a big radar. I don't know why. Maybe it's something that's unpopular. Maybe it's just one of those stories that just, you know, goes whatever. There are people that like it enough for it to get adapted, but not enough for it to actually be pushed up to the upper echelon of the anime community. Regardless, I'm excited to put Cosmic Princess Kaguya on my list, get another musical anime that looks this stunning, and hopefully, like I said with Steel Ball Run, hopefully Netflix doesn't screw this one. Now, as always, as we do with our series, we are going to go ahead and list the 10 anime that we are going to be watching weekly for winter of 2026. Which I will say you will be able to keep up with, as we are going to be starting up our daily upload channel again, but more of that in a different video that's either going to be released before this, which I'll link in the description, or an update video that I will post after this video as well. But the 10 anime that we are going to be watching weekly for winter of 2026 will be as follows: Jujutsu Kaisen Culling Games Part 1, Hell's Paradise Season 3, Fire Force Season 3 Part 2, Oshi No Ko Season 3, My Hero Academia Vigilantes Season 2, Journal with the Wish, Shibou Yuugi, Dead Account, Kaguya-chan Isn't Scary, and Cosmic Princess Kaguya. Now, for those of you who may be wondering why I didn't put Steel Ball Run in that list, well, again, like I said in that segment, it's Netflix. I don't know how they're going to treat JoJo's. So I'm not putting on there for the anticipation that it's not gonna be on there. So, yeah. But with that being said, that is all of the winter 2026 anime that I plan on watching for myself. Let me know if there's an anime that you want me to watch specifically, or give me your opinion on my watch list and if you think that it's good or not. go ahead and subscribe to the multiple channels that we have. I now have this channel. I will have the daily anime review channel that I will have for all the weekly shows that I will be doing from here on out. And I will also have my live stream channel that I will have where I talk about non-anime things and just play a bunch of games. Also subscribe because we are going to have so much content in 2026 with the typical weekly reviews that we do. We also have the podcast for the Manga Cavalcade that is put on by InfinityCast. And I am starting a new series as well called Freeform Fridays, where I'm going to be talking about anime adjacent things. Whether that be the Japanese game shows that I talked about previously, maybe doing an anime haul potentially, talking about potential news that I feel like I want to share, or just giving my overall take on certain things that may not be worthy of a longer video, but is something that I would like to share with you guys. Like I said, we got a lot of content coming out, and I'm very excited for 2026. It is a new year. We are starting off strong. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it a lot, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a wonderful day.
I'm like so gay.
With the freaky stuff you like to